Good morning and welcome to the 2021 Tourism Outlook Forum. Thank you so much for being here. We look forward to hopefully being in person next year, but thank you for your understanding with Destination Think's team being international. They just had no way to get here. We have a lot of great programming for you this morning. I'm going to start us off with Sarah Reynolds-Lasser and some great guest service appreciation and announcements, perhaps a little bit of a guest appearance from Mayor Tory. Then we'll see Destination Think presenting global trends, what's happening in Colorado and Aspen, a destination management update on what Aspen is already doing, findings from the destination management plan process to date. And then I will be back and you will hear about the 2021 results and the 2022 outlook. So buckle up, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. ACRA launched a new initiative this month to recognize the hard work and dedication of our guest service employees that interact with the public throughout the community. ACRA's Guest Service Appreciation Month is our opportunity to say thank you to all the guest service employees who are an essential part of what creates an environment for Aspen to thrive. These staff members might not hear a thank you from each person they assist, but ACRA wants to recognize the hard work that goes into creating a great guest and customer experience. I am pleased to welcome Mayor Tory, who will present the City of Aspen's proclamation for Guest Service Appreciation Month.
Hi, this is Tory, Mayor of Aspen, and this is a proclamation of the City of Aspen, Colorado, incorporated 1881, in recognition of Guest Service Appreciation Month. Whereas Aspen recognizes that everyday frontline operations and guest service employees interact with the public throughout the community, both locals and visitors. And whereas these guest service employees are the face of the Aspen brand as both a community and resort destination. They contribute to the quality of life for residents, the first-time experience of visitors, and the high return guest rate at Aspen's hotels. And whereas guest service staff may not hear a thank you from each person they assist, but Aspen wants to recognize the hard work that goes into creating a great guest and customer experience. And whereas these guest service staff are members of our community whose passion for Aspen shines through in their everyday interactions with residents, visitors, and the community at large. Aspen is a community made up of guest service representatives across all businesses and organizations that make Aspen defy ordinary on a daily basis. And whereas Guest Service Appreciation Month will be Aspen's opportunity to say thank you to all of those guest service employees who are an essential part of what creates an environment for Aspen to thrive. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Mayor, City Council, and the citizens of Aspen hereby proclaim the month of October 2021 as Guest Service Appreciation Month.
Thank you, Mayor Tory. ACRA is pleased to announce the top 3 finalists of the Aspen Times and ACRA Best of Guest Service Staff Member Voting. Number 3 is Maria Mitsunova. Maria is a longtime local who is extremely knowledgeable about the Aspen area. As head concierge, she coordinates concierge services for Frias Properties. She is always willing to go the extra step to ensure that their guests have the best experience and enjoy all Aspen has to offer. ACRA is pleased to celebrate Maria as a 2021 Best of Guest Service top finalist. As a thank you, Maria will receive a gift card to Belly Up. Maria, you defy ordinary. Number 2 is Jeff Berry. Jeff has been serving in the Roaring Fork Valley for 20 years with Federal Express. Jeff always leads by example to show how to provide the best customer service. Jeff is someone who inspires others working around him with his acts of service and has a great attitude that never wavers, even under extremes. ACRA is pleased to celebrate Jeff as a 2021 Best of Guest Service top finalist. As a thank you, he will receive dinner for 2 at the newly opened Casa D'Angelo. Jeff, you defy ordinary. And our number 1 guest service staff member in 2021 is Eric Goyden. Eric is the operations manager at Aspen Outfitting Company. As a passionate outdoorsman himself, Eric loves sharing his appreciation for the natural beauty that surrounds us with each of his guests. Planning and preparation are key, and no 2 clients are the same for Eric, whether he is arranging a large corporate retreat or a first fly fishing outing. He is always focused on making sure everyone leaves with a smile on their face, a great story to tell, and a new or rekindled love for the outdoors. ACRA is pleased to celebrate Eric with a one-night stay at Limelight Hotel Aspen, spa treatment at Remed, and dinner for two at Duamani. Eric, you defy ordinary. Congratulations to our 3 best guest service staff members. I am pleased to introduce Frank Kuipers from Destination Think to present a keynote presentation on global destination management trends.
Hi, everybody. So this is going to be a sort of keynote-ish thing of 30 minutes, and then I will explain to you in detail what we are doing together with ACRA in Aspen. So if I speak about we, I speak about Destination Think, which is founded in Canada, but it's a global company, as you can hear. So my name is Frank Kuipers, that's how you pronounce it. If it were an English name, it would have been Cooper, in French Cuvelier, and in German Fassbinder. So now you have all my languages. I'm originally from Europe, from Belgium, and I'm senior strategist and in the lead for the projects we are doing. Many I've been doing in the United States, in Canada, some in Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and Asia. And what I want to talk to you the first 30 minutes is really about that word destination management. Everybody speaks about destination management, but what does it really mean, and why do we speak these days about destination management? And I want to start with an example how DMOs are perceived all around the globe, but also outside. So a few years ago, I was on a holiday trip with my wife, and that was right before COVID. So I was bored and traveling on the globe. So we went to our favorite destination, which is the planet of Mars. And I don't know whether you have ever been to Mars, but now they have that new terminal. It's called the Elon Musk terminal, and it's totally on brand. It's red. And if you arrive, there is that famous billboard, "Come to Mars, it's warmer than Aspen." Now, that is funny, isn't it, eh? Because if you say it's warmer than Aspen, it's actually a lie. Mars is much colder than Aspen. So I asked the PR of the airport of the planet of Mars, is this your marketing? And he or she, because it's not very clear with Martians, says, I don't know, you have to ask the VP marketing. So I asked the VP marketing of the planet of Mars, and he or she says, no, you need to ask the CEO, and so on, and so on, and so on. And you end with the president of Mars, and then he or she says, oh, marketing, that's something you need to ask the DMO. That's how DMOs are always perceived and framed all around the planet. It's actually even worse. You have to explain the job that I am doing for a living. I'm a strategist and I'm a place strategist. People, and even my own children, think immediately about stuff like this. Oh, daddy is creating logos and taglines. Honestly, I've never done it. I'm a strategist. I'm more on the dull side of an organization. So I do always an experiment with my students. I do teach in the United States and in Europe, and I ask them to think about a destination that is colorful and full with flavors and cheerful and has great food and great music. And they always come with something as the one on the bottom left here, the Mexico one. And that's curious. And I say, hey, do you think you're gonna make a difference with your logo? And they all nod their heads and say, of course. And then I show this slide, and then they say, oops, probably not, right? This is the sea of sameness. So is marketing promotion? No, promotion is only a part of marketing. And the way you do it these days is way different than you did it 10 years ago. In 2000, for instance, Glasgow, the capital, not the capital, the economic capital of Scotland, wanted to do a rebrand. And they launched a campaign, the city council launched a campaign, "We are alive." And the residents were furious because they said, do you think we were dead for all these decades? So long story short, they had to remake the entire logo, the tagline, the campaign, and they co-created with their residents, Glasgow, Scotland with style, and guess it's still there. It's the same with Montreal. Montreal is a special city. It's a bilingual city where you can be served in 2 languages. Not many cities really can claim that. Brussels, in my country, for instance. So to the left, there was the old logo of Montreal. And the reason they changed it was they thought it was politically incorrect because you have these thick red female lips called the French lips, and they thought it was insulting. So they launched their new logo, and guess what happened? Thousands of women created an action online. We want our old logo back, because what they underestimated is that Montrealers really thought this defines us. We're not French, we're not English, we're both. And that is really something that sets us apart in that Canadian space. Last but not least, Vancouver, notorious case, launched this new logo, I think 7-8 years ago. There was a blog storm. People were furious. What is that? Where does it come from? Why is it so ugly? We're deeply disappointed. Not the local creatives were involved. The mayor did a sort of weak defense by saying, I didn't pay much. So people threw that back in his face and say, well, that is absolutely something we saw. It's really bad. They had to withdraw it. And 5 years later, they launched a co-created city brand. The point we want to make is that the brand is much an open invitation to complain as it is a promise to deliver when you do not engage your residents from in the start. In Europe, we don't speak about branding, we speak about reputation. Sensitivity to words is different in every place on the planet, and we speak about competitive identity. Now, who owns the name of a place, right? This is Austin in Texas. I do an experiment with students in Europe and I let them talk about Texas. What do you know about Texas? A lot of cliches there and not very flattering. And then I ask, what do you know about Austin? And they go over the moon. Oh yeah, fantastic, tech, pop music, and so on. They're very green. And then my last question is, where do you think that Austin is actually? It's in Texas, and then they're really surprised. This is the power of a reputation. This is also the power of residents that create a reputation. And the most appealing example is probably Portland. Like, if we're honest, not that very attractive as a city, but 20 years ago, and you can read it online, they said, we're gonna set up a framework of storytelling about street art, street food, voodoo donuts, having the smallest public garden on the planet, about our craft breweries and so on. And you had a TV show, and you had a slogan about keep Portland weird. And it really worked out. When I went over to the States, I absolutely had to visit Portland because of my kids. So that's the power of reputation. So what kind of value can you create in creating that reputation? That's quite spectacular. I want to tell you a tale of 2 cities. On the one hand, Nashville, on the other hand, Memphis. They're both in the same state. They're quite similar in size. They're quite similar in economic footprint, and they have the same value proposition. Nashville is about the Nashville sound, about music, the Ollie Opera. And there is Memphis. They have the real thing, right? They have the studios. They have Elvis. But there is a huge difference online, because if you measure the conversations going on about Nashville compared to Memphis and the sentiment of the conversation, Nashville is 5-6 times stronger. How does that come? Go to Nashville. If you land on the airport, they tell the story right in your face. You have the long corridor, all the electric guitars of famous people. There is an upcoming band playing somewhere for free in the middle of the airport. There is a Nashville sound in the taxi. In the hotel, there are photos. They refer immediately to venues and concerts. Not so in Memphis. all that matters. And it attracts people, like when Jack White quit Detroit, where the music business is, his choice was Nashville, because that's there where the artists hang out. So, destination management. To understand destination management, you need to know that the thinking that I and other people created into the space of destination marketing comes from placemaking. What is the new kind of thinking about place marketing or destination marketing? What is the new way of thinking about destination management? How can we make tourism thrive? There are 10 tips or tricks. Then I do a short summary, and the last 8 minutes or so, I explain what we are doing in Aspen. So, destination management. I said it already, placemaking, very important. Before I entered the space of tourism, I was a teacher at university in city marketing and city making. And I'm really enchanted by a lady. She's from the US, and her name is Jane Jacobs. And she's famous for what she did in New York. She was an activist. And she said cities have the capability of providing something for everybody, only because and only when they are created by everybody. That's the same for San Francisco, for Munich, for Paris, or for Aspen. So that way of thinking about placemaking, and admit there is no thing possible anymore in a city without consulting residents, is always translated as physical intervention, like what I did in Times Square here, but it's also online. Like I had to speak years ago and Michael Bloomberg was there, and he gave the famous case that he wrote a letter to Google. Why? Because there is a lot of congestion in Manhattan. And apparently the Google algorithm was responsible as well. Everybody had to turn to the right. Google never answered. They can't tweak their algorithm for New York, but then they have to do that for Melbourne or London or Rome or I don't know. So, but you know, as a reaction, what really happened is Waze was a new kid in town, and it was bought by Google, by the way, and it's now real-time user-generated congestion management, right? So this is also online place making. So far, place making. Now, place marketing is really about this. My formula is that a place or marketing a place should be the sum of your product experience, your external experience, and your internal communication. So what is your product experience? I think everybody gets it nowadays. Where word of mouth comes is from happy people that have happy experiences. What does the word experience wants to say? Well, this is the Pine and Gilmore theory. Probably most of you know. So example, coffee, the raw materials, the beans, you don't pay that much. So that's commodities. Products mean you have done something with these beans, coffee beans. So maybe now you have a pad or you have powder. If there is a service implied, you go to a cafe, somebody has made a coffee for you and somebody brings the coffee, but you also can turn everything in an experience, meaning uploading that service and product with emotions. That's what Starbucks did in the beginning. When Howard Short took over, they were selling commodities, coffee beans. He created a very experiential kind of cafe. You had the iTunes deal, you had the word barista that showed up everywhere, you had the misspellings on the cups, all these rituals, right? And the last thing that Pine and Gilmore say is, if you're emotionally so touched that it transforms, changes your life, you go to a place and you stay there, for instance, then you have a sort of transformational economy. That's what we do for a living, by the way, in the tourism space. Take, for instance, Ottawa, Canada's capital. So the name of Ottawa is just a commodity, right? It's not even a living thing. It's just a name. But the product, for instance, is rafting. And the service is giving crash courses in rafting, or having coaches, or having people that learn you do and training in 2 hours. Because Ottawa attracts city hoppers and city trippers. What is the experience, the emotional thing that Ottawa is probably the only G7 capital in the world where you can do rafting in front of Parliament Hill. And if you're lucky, Justin Trudeau will wave with his hand during his daily jogging. So a product is the sum of the experience of that product and external communication. And that is what DMOs are known for, yeah. And they're good in it, right? But also there is change. Now they're good in what we call educational communication. And the most famous is why Greenland may not be for you. Doesn't mean they're saying don't come. This is not contradictory to the DEI. Everybody is welcome, but it really makes people think before you consider to go to Greenland, are you the right person? And this is about respecting for the local people. This is about respecting for environment. This is about price setting and so on. Very successful campaign. Iceland, suffering from over-tourism, too successful. Now, problem there is residents are not happy with American and Canadian people that complain that Icelandic people are coming in a hot tub in a hotel and they're naked. But they do that already for 1,000 years over there. So the Iceland Academy, again, it's promotion, but it has elements of humor. There's a lot of sense of humor and also elements of storytelling. And they make fun of themselves, but in the meantime, you are informed how to behave. And then the last and most overlooked is internal communication. Communication by your residents, by your fans, by people that love to visit you. Great example, Lesbos island in Greece, notorious after the so-called refugee crisis. Tourism dropped with 90% and was put back into the market by their own residents. A grassroots campaign picked up by volunteers that work there all over the globe, picked up by people that visited Lesbos, and they recovered. Or what the Swedes did, a big symbolic action with their residents. So Sweden was the first country in the world where they have in the constitution the freedom of speech. So to celebrate that, years ago, they said, this is a number in Sweden. And if you dial it from the States, from other European countries, from Australia, a random Swede will answer you. And even the prime minister was involved. And even there was swear words used and not very appropriate language by some people. They kept answering because they're Swedes, right? So this is a very simple idea, not a very expensive campaign, but is really related to who they are, their DNA, and makes them feel respected. Bring these two together, that place making, destination making thought, and the place marketing, destination marketing thought, and you have something like destination management. And I think the first I really was serious about it, I co-created this, by the way, is the strategy, The End of Tourism as we know it, by Copenhagen, city of Denmark. And it's misunderstood. They did not say we're not gonna invent anymore. We're not gonna invite any more tourists, of course not. We're gonna treat our tourists as temporary locals. But on the return, they should behave as temporary locals. So they launched a new idea about localhood as well. Now, this is still a growth strategy, but a very qualitative growth, right? We won't be taken over by mass tourism. That was the ambition of Copenhagen. Now, there's the elephant in the room, over tourism, mass tourism. My penny dropped about this issue years ago when I worked in Montana in Big Sky. Problem Big Sky is many people during winter, nobody during summer. I was there in summer. I was alone in these streets. I did a survey with the residents and workshops. Problem number one during the summer, over tourism. That is strange. You hardly have hundreds of tourists over there. So my penny dropped that there are two ways to look at over tourism. It's one part is really rooted in reality, too many people at the same time at the same place. But another substantial part is psychological, right? tourism becomes the scapegoat of many things that go wrong on the planet. So I think mass tourism is not the right word. Over tourism is not the right word. It's visitor pressure. It's, for instance, people that do not like when somebody comes on your ski track and does not know how to behave. In many cases, it's not even a tourism problem, right? Like in Auckland, they have an island, Waiheke, famous for wine. Residents are furious over tourism, they shout. We did a deep dive in the research, and apparently 90% of the people that visit the Iceland are New Zealanders, and 90% of these New Zealanders are from, yes, Auckland. So it's actually a capacity problem with the ferry boats. It's a capacity problem with the parking lots. It's city management, and it's not so much tourism. Vancouver and real estate, tourism is here the scapegoat, but what actually is happening that most of the hotels have turned their hotel in a condo. So yeah, that makes prices go up and locals are pushed out of downtown. Same with Melbourne. Oh, a lot of ranting about over tourism, but the main reason that people are irritated is because the grid is always blocked. Why is the grid always blocked? Because of couriers, Amazon couriers, pizza couriers. What I want to make the point here, what I want to say here is there is no one size fits all solution. You need to study again for every place. I work in Malawi for the World Bank. What you see there is Western solutions will not bring value to that place. You need to create jobs. You need to create income for poor people. But what's not going to help them is bringing in these posh hotels, 5 stars, and people fly in and fly away, and money is leaking away and not going to the local communities. Ottawa, they were celebrating being the capital of Canada for 150 years. Problem was capacity. So they partnered with Airbnb, very successful. The opposite, Amsterdam, they forbid almost Airbnb. It's very, very limited these days because it almost destroyed the experience for everybody, visitors and locals, because so many people turn their homes in a 365 Airbnb experience. And that makes from your place a sort of Disneyland. By the way, Amsterdammers were the first to speak about holistic destination management, 2015. And they're really great in thinking about dispersal as well. So they even rebaptized names of surrounding places, like the Zandvoort beach is now the Amsterdam beach, which does something with visitors' minds for far away, and that makes them go out of the center. Same thought in Iceland, Ásgudmundur. So they have 7 regions. Every region has a Gudmundur. Can be a woman, can be a man, and they say, this is typically Icelandic humor, we are the place in the world with the most people that have the name Gudmundur. Now, each Gudmundur has an email, a Twitter account, and a phone, and you can reach out to that person 24 hours a day. Again, to be informed about these regions, again, to get people out of Reykjavik and explore the island and not stay all at the same place. So what are the things we learned from working in the destination management space? A lot of things, right? Stick to your plan, for instance. Botswana is so remarkable. For 20 years, they said, the only thing we care about is eco strategy in our pricing model. It's very expensive, by the way, to stay overnight in Botswana, but it really has not destroyed the place. Southern Norway, from 10 years ago, I'll get it. They have a laser focus on referrals, and that leads to repeated visitors, right? Probably not direct, but by word of mouth, indirect. So they focus on the visitor experience. Why? Because they can't compete with the north of Norway, which is very spectacular. Palau, probably you heard about this one, the pledge. So before you enter the island, you need to sign a document, you need to read it, you need to reflect on it. How are you going to respect Mother Nature and the environment and so on? But another way to look at destination management is what the place where I live in Antwerp, Flanders is doing. So they're not showcasing cities like Antwerp and Brussels and Bruges. No, they speak about niches like cycling, like beer brewing, like chocolate and food and events and painters and so on. So 10 thumb rules how you can thrive. 1, know your place life cycle. Like a product, a place has a life cycle, right? And you need to be aware where you are, because that can define what you need to do in the management space. If you have a very generic reputation, maybe you need to reinvent yourself and go into diversification and niches. But if you're just starting, you have a very specific reputation, you might think about the growth before you go into the niche space. Driving tourism, also mind the gap between what you think you are and what people are saying what you are, your residents. That's your DNA, that's your place identity, right? The gap between what people that live at your place say about you, what the world is saying about you, that's your perceived image, and what you say to the world. Now, if you say something different than what people see in you and what you say about yourself, then you might have a problem. Then you're in a dire situation, but you don't walk your talk. But if these three fall together, then you have a very strong reputation and you will attract the right people. Spreading becomes very important, right? Could be geographical, could be seasonal, right? I know that, for instance, in Aspen, you have a strong summer offering and a strong winter offering, but some destinations are really struggling with that. Experiences for residents. The experience should be beneficiary for both residents and for your visitors. I think it's very remarkable that 5 years ago, Thailand, which is known as a very generic mass tourism country, said we're not going to promote Thailand as such anymore. We're not going to attract with tour operators volume of people. The only thing we want to support is meaningful encounters between local people and visitors. And I thought, wow, this is great. Probably it's already too late for Thailand, but at least it's an indicator, a red flag. Rethink itineraries. This is Daniela Quercia. It's a Spanish guy. He teaches at Cambridge in the UK. And he is creating, based on data, alternative routings for tourists. So if you go from place A to B and you're really in a hurry, you might prefer the shortest way, but maybe you prefer the most beautiful way or the most scenic way or the way that is the safest or where you have the most encounters with local people. So by doing that, you're diversifying actually the experience for your visitor. The same, but then not geographically, but time-based spreading is what museums do. For instance, this is one in San Francisco. So the pricing model is very dynamic. If you come Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, you might even come in for free. But if you go like Saturday afternoon, it might be very, very expensive. Rethink experiences, right? People take these things for granted. If you have skiing, surfing, outdoor adventure, how generic is that and what is your capacity? If you can plot that here on that grid, you might have an insight like, okay, maybe we are saturated, or maybe here is a lot of space to grow and to improve. For instance, north of British Columbia, we did a deep dive into the mountain bikers community. These guys invented actually downhill, and they have an Olympic silver medal and so on. But it really takes a lot of time to study the behavior of these communities, right? And what is the impact of a niche on the community and how much effort do you need to do? If Aspen, for instance, does not need to do a lot of effort for attracting skiers, but what about bird watchers, or what about, I don't know, foodies or cultural interested people, right? A really great example is in Europe. Slovenia. Slovenia is a little bit like mini Europe. They have a little bit of everything: the coast, the mountains, old towns, heritage. But they really go into that space of niches. So they have a sort of qualitative visitation over there. They do a lot of stuff with eco lodges, and very expensive, but they actually target families from the north, from the Netherlands, France, Germany, Belgium, and they pay a lot, $500-600 a night, and they think it's worth. They invented beehive tourism, which is great, right? And they have, before many other destinations, and you have in the United States farm to table, we call that garden to plate. So in these eco lodges, urban kids learn that strawberries do not grow in the fridge. They even can choose their meal with a chef, and he will prepare it in front of their eyes. Regenerate and restore is very important. You need to go from a win-win to a win-win-win situation, meaning win-win is business, right? Somebody pays and somebody earns, but you should not send the invoice to a third party. It could be the local community, could be minorities, could be nature. You should stop doing that. And even there are a lot of examples how you can restore places, heal places. Tourism can have a healing force. This is what happened in Whakatane in the Bay of Plenty Bay in New Zealand. And when Neil Hutton, an American, arrived there, there were only a few birds, kiwi birds, left. It's a very vulnerable bird. So what did they do is setting up a training program for dogs and cats, because that's the reason they are destroyed. These birds had no natural predator, so they don't run away. So dogs are playing with them. So all these dogs are trained. And there is signage everywhere. And there is a zoning plan. There are places where the kiwi birds are breeding and you're not allowed to go there. How is he funding that? Exactly, by tourism. Small scale, exclusive, very expensive, but very high quality visitation. People that can see. And I think it's a very transformational experience for people to see the kiwi birds at dawn. New segmentation, I think I made that point already. Maybe the passion of the people should come first. If you don't believe that, there is a French academic paper recently launched that shows strong destinations, small or big, that have a very, very good connection with passionate communities are so much more robust and resilient. So they bounce back. After the bomb attack at the airport in Brussels, after the attack on the music venue in Paris, in 3 months, they were back on track. How does that come? Because of niches. So Brussels is really the pet destination for people who love beer, chocolate, but also comic books, for instance. And these communities really care, and they are creating a sort of anti-wave against the bad news. They come probably earlier than the others back to your destination. The same with the art scene for Paris and the food scene. So I think that the right visitor is not saying that people are not welcome. This is not anti-DEI thought. No, it's just a visitor that is bringing that extra value. It respects environment, respects the local people, and brings some dollars to you. And to attract these people, you need to study a lot and doing your research. So for instance, Calgary is now attracting the dinosaur enthusiasts and the fly fishers, because you can fly fishing in the middle of a big, and photography. So yeah, people think that it's easy, but you need to know what are the bragging rights of a community, who is influential, how do they talk, what motivates them, what are the different levels of engagement, like you see here. There's a big difference between an activity rider, a casual rider, and a serious rider in mountain biking. What are the spheres of influence, right? For instance, the road cycling community is very conservative. It's print and it's blogs. You need to know all these things, and then you need to measure it, right? In destination management, you need to measure the end customer journey, like you do in many destinations already in Colorado with the Tourism Sentiment Index. And what about resident sentiment. That's something that really should be in your mix, and you should keep measuring on a constant base. Some destinations even manage and steer their own strategy on Net Promoter Score, the satisfaction of both visitors and residents. So in a nutshell, I think destination management is creating the right business impact. And I think you really need to tick the boxes of these three circles, right? You need to keep pace with the changing industry landscape. You need to work on the lack of understanding of the value of tourism, especially from residents. There's a lot of misunderstandings or ignorance, and also a vulnerability in your revenue streams. So you risk to lose competitiveness, to risk stable long-term funding, and to have a reduced ability to adjust strategies. So solutions are shifting from marketing to management. Now, speaking, for instance, about Aspen and how I can make the bridge, I think they've done already. If you read their strategy, they tick all the boxes. So when we got the assignment, my question was, why do you need us? Well, that's probably for number 2 and 3, the definition of the value of tourism with community stakeholders. And we've done already a lot with community stakeholders, and creating a destination's long-term tourism strategy with a unified vision. So we need to redefine the value of tourism, expand from purely marketing indicators. Resident happiness has become very important. The destination desirability is something you can rethink, and heads in beds is should be an effect of what you do, but not a target. You need a sustainable vision that includes residents. You need to have a focus on the experience, and you need to rethink funding models. So if you bring your residents in your mix in that business process, the more you do that, the more license to operate you will have, the more impact you will make, and finally, the more revenue you will make. Cut the residents out. I can assure you there are keynotes of hours about unhappy residents pose an enormous business risk. So we talked about a shift in promotion, not only about going digital and word of mouth, but also promote to whom and about what, and educational promotion. We talked about the shift in marketing. People have forgotten that marketing was about the 4 Ps: product, place, and price. And promotion, well, there's a shift from promotion to product. Destination development is what really matters in a destination management. That's not enough. Destination management is also about creating experiences, experience design, putting the customer journey centric, and last but not least, destination management is also about ownership, co-creating with your resident. Who owns the names of a place? That's the people who live there. And last but not least, a shift in model. Over time, you have to rethink who are my stakeholders. You have to rethink how am I funded, and so on. So manage the experience, manage the stories, then you will manage growth. My last thought is an afterthought. I was only once involved in creating a master plan for an airport, and these people think like 20, 30 years ahead. And of course, every year they adjust everything they have said in that strategy. But I think, why is tourism not doing that? So now about you. What we learned about Aspen is staff shortages, gentrification, the mountain migration, visitor pressure, social inequality, transportation management, economic diversification. People want to preserve that small town character. Where's the soul of our destination is what you hear a lot. And enhancing tourism experiences, more arts and culture in the mix. So if I need to wrap it up, I think the challenge is Aspen is so popular and so known. How to survive your reputation economically, environmentally, socially, and probably existentially. So our process looks like this. Project planning, where are we, where could we be, where do we want to go, how do we get there? Now, we are somewhere now on the left part of that strategic cycle. Where do we want to go and how do we get there? So let's say 60% of the work has been done already. After this week, it will be 80%. So first two phases are already done. First was, where are we? In July and August, we did a lot of desk research. I can assure you there was a lot to read. We did internal interviews. We did external interviews. We had town hall sessions, as we call it. These are really sessions with the people of Aspen in the industry, because we respect that the people who work, live, and play in your region have ownership of the place. Then we had a research report and findings that was presented already to the client. We had a DMO workshop with the ACRA team. So to give us focus, to discuss findings for the organization and strategy. And the next steps is actually this week, we will do the co-creation labs. And we believe that it's crucial to conduct an inclusive process with a diverse group of people and organizations can participate. So what we want to avoid here is imposing the outcome on stakeholders, right? We want to co-create with them up front. And then the last phase, which will be delivered by the end of the year, is your strategy. First with a bit going back and forth, and then the final validation by the client and by yourself. And that is basically it.
Thank you, Eliza. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Neville, and I'm a project manager here at Destination Think. As Frank mentioned in his presentation, we're about 60% of the way through our process. And with completion of the co-creation labs that are taking place actually today and tomorrow, we'll be about 80% of the way there. So our team will really be heads down the next couple of months, continuing to distill insights, building the plan framework, and developing the transformational plan. So we're happy to answer any questions that you have about our process and what we've learned so far. Just know that we're still developing those final outcomes, and those will be delivered come January. So with that, I'll officially open up the floor to Frank to answer any questions as they come in.
Hi, everybody.
Trisha McIntyre has asked, you did not touch on ghost visitors or gray short-term rentals as an impact on the locals.
You can't touch on everything in 40 minutes, but it's absolutely something that is in the scope of the plan, right? So this was really a keynote about things that are going on the planet. And like I said, it's going to be different for every destination, and we need to study again for every destination. So ghost visitation or mountain migration, as you call it in Aspen, you could be surprised, but in some places it's perceived as a positive thing, and in some places it's really a negative thing. So I worked in Portugal a couple of months ago, and their tourism industry was already saved by people that work remotely and all went to the south of Europe and stay there. So they have thriving businesses during COVID-19. But yeah, I did these town hall sessions with the residents, and that came up as a first thing. So it's absolutely on our radar.
Sally, yes, we will. This entire presentation will be posted on the website. So we will get a copy of that out to all attendees. Any other questions for Frank or Emily and the Destination Think team? We do too. We love the focus on the restaurants. Rachel Richards, who's the city councilwoman for Aspen, says affordable housing won't be catching up with demand for potentially decades in our valley. How can ACRA help?
Yeah, affordable housing is not only the problem for Aspen, it is a problem for Colorado, it's a problem for Oregon, where I work, and it is a problem for California. It sometimes feels to me that it's bigger than even a statewide problem, right? What we do with certain DMOs go into a system of giving grants to help this, other give help to existing accommodation, give them guidance how to make a room available. So there are many ways to help, but it's never going to be that one DMO is going to solve this on their own. But help is absolutely possible, yeah.
Alex Delarb asked, will you consider what's happening in other similar resort towns as you assess Aspen's destination management?
Yeah, absolutely. I gave you already the example of the resort towns in Portugal, which is way different. We work in Oregon right now, also resort towns at the coast and so on. And yeah, it's always good to have benchmarks and to compare. But maybe, and I hope that resonated a little bit with you, I'm very shy to create something that comes right from the shelf, right? It's a sort of pre-formatted strategy and you fill in the parameters. So that's why we take our time, and that's why it's thorough and we do all these consultations and all that reading stuff, because it's gonna be different for every place. Every place is, in my world, unique. And like I said, the combination of all the things is unique, a unique footprint. That means that the problems you need to solve are unique as well. But it can be very inspiring. What we do often when we deliver strategy is giving practices, good practices from all over the planet, actually. And that sometimes could be inspiring and could be helpful. So the answer is yes.
And I'll just add on to that is that part of the reason Destination Think was selected from the RFP is that they're also working with the Colorado Tourism Office and their roadmap 5-year strategic plan. So there's some kind of, crossover there, which is beneficial for both the state level and our local level. Question from Ward Howenstein, another city council member. How can destination marketing focus on the impacts of tourism on the quality of life of residents? What is the balance of the number of visitors and the pressures on locals?
Okay, this is a very broad question. I think that in the past we have been inviting, and I mean globally, well, tourism comes from a tradition of hospitality, right? And you feel that there is a difficulty to, even if you speak about inviting the right visitors, people will frame it immediately in the semantics of, hey, we are very welcoming and be mindful of DEI. It has nothing to do with that, but you also need to be realistic. You have only limited resources, you have only limited budget, and you always focus on people, right? So having experience that are beneficiary for both locals and visitors, that is going to be the key of success for many places these days. So how can you make sure that people do not destroy your place, like people that pollute, people that don't clean up the litter, that people that don't know how to behave, if you have nature to offer, they don't know how to behave. All that is now the core of a DMO. And that's where a DMO really can play a role. And that's why I gave these famous examples, by the way, of Greenland and the Faroe and all these other destinations that do that very well, because they come from a situation that was very dire, even more dire in some of these places than Aspen. And they totally changed their way of thinking about tourism, right? So a DMO becomes nowadays an enabler, a sort of intermediary organization, rather than your promotional gun for a destination. And I think ACRA is already far on that road. So that's why we picked them as a client and they picked us.
The next question is from Rachel Richards again. Small business owners are stuck with such high rent that raising wages is almost a no-go. Will we see a market adjustment of lowering rents to keep workers? Will we see a loss of businesses as there aren't enough workers to provide the services the guests are expecting?
Yeah, I think this is out of my reach, right? We can only do recommendations in the plan and say, hey, this is what we saw in your city and that's what we should do. And that's where it stops. This is really addressing policy. But I think that what I really like about the situation in Aspen, having spoken with lots of people that are city councillor or have a direct relation to the city or employee, that there is a very close connection to tourism and city. That is different in many other places, right? Tourism is really framed as something different, right? And here it's really seen as an integrated part of your city. And that's a good starting point to tackle all these issues. Don't underestimate that.
Gardner Nichols, is overcrowding in Aspen being considered in this plan? I know you touched on over-tourism in your presentation. However, this could be a real issue in Aspen. Shoulder-to-shoulder foot traffic in Hallstatt, Austria is an example of overcrowding in the entire village, rendering it difficult for residents. What could be a solution for avoiding this in Aspen?
I never said in the presentation that there is no such a thing as over-tourism. On the contrary, over-tourism really means queuing up too many people at the same time at the same place. But saying all that, I did my research, and Emily helped me there, by the way. A lot of people are ranting about things that might not be direct result of tourism. So that's where I want to distinguish. But of course, overcrowded spaces will be on the list of things we need to look into. Yeah, over-tourism is a problem. And but if you listen to people, it's really about visitor pressure. And there's a slight difference. You always hear these stories of people that live in Aspen of, yeah, we were skiing and there is somebody who has no clue how to ski or how to behave or where to go. So I think there's absolutely a task there for the city and the DMO to communicate together. And weaving in a lot of educational stuff into your promotion.
This is a comment. I think this will speak back to Rachel's. This is not necessarily something ACRA can influence, but and it's by the name Kristen Anderson, but I know it's not from Kristen Anderson on my staff. So not only do we need additional employee housing, we also need to take some offline for updating, such as Marolt. Maybe we could initiate a tax credit for homes with attached apartments, mother-in-law suites rented to low-income locals. So more of a suggestion for you to take into your consideration. This is from Kelly Murphy with the Aspen Historical Society. Understand that this is an ACRA project, but how inclusive of the rest of the valley will it be? This is a valley-wide issue and cannot be adequately addressed in an Aspen vacuum. And Kelly, I'll let Frank speak to this also, but in my presentation coming up, I do address some of that valley-wide pressure as well.
Yeah, and that's how you framed the assignment to us, right? This is the Aspen area. It's not exclusively confined to only that place that is called Aspen.
We have a lot of new visitors to Aspen. What would you suggest to be the best way to provide them information they need to be the best guests? My answer is to direct them to the content on the aspenchamber.org website. Let's see what Frank has to say.
I'm a big fan of what we call a symbolic action. And a symbolic action, it sounds really weird, right? But it's actually expressing your identity to people outside your place. And how do you do that? Most of the time you do that through your residents. And it only takes, because there are always people ranting about everything and complaining, it only takes, let's say, a group of willing people that really start this, and then you get these grassroots campaign, and I gave some examples. But I think that is something that really can be helpful, and it tells so much more to the world who you really are than the old days of advertisement and billboards on airplanes and so on. So I'm a big believer of that kind of promotion. And that's where you can make a difference as a place. For instance, like in Ottawa, who's the capital, we're now going to do a symbolic action. And it's about being the capital of Canada, giving people hope. So we are following with the residents newcomers. So there is a whole traject, and they're filmed, and there is a lot of video all over the city, and there is a website and so on. But it's the residents that actually play the main role in all that. And it tells something about the city, right? So there are lots of possibilities.
Question from Rachel Richards. Have prior communities you have worked with had challenges as to how the guests treat the local workers? We've had large reports of rudeness and entitled behavior.
Yeah, that's not the first time I hear that. You need to look to what New Zealand is doing right now. I think it was just a month or two ago, they have that big campaign about Instagram. And yeah, it's always with a sort of sense of humor. That's how the Kiwis are. But you have these Instagrammers who dive from a cliff because they want to take that one selfie and so on. So that's one of the things they really do. There are complaints, and now I come back to your question. There are complaints about how to say that in very polite English, people who wants to poo in the wide open, right? This is really, really insulting an entire destination. For the Maori population, nature is something sacred, right? The souls of the ancestors are in the trees. So there is a fan of a big variety of measures. It's that promotional thing, but it's also like, in the end, there is also getting fined if you are caught doing this. So it's not one or two, it's like 3 or 4 measures you probably need, but it's very important. What about these destinations that make you think before you are there, like you need to sign a pledge? There are more and more. It's viral now. And one of the things really could be like respect your local people, right? If you don't do that, well, you might have a problem because that's our value. We respect these people. So yeah, there's a lot of things to say about that. It's a great question. And it's not only in Aspen.
From Bob Circus, tourism is the economy in Aspen. There's very little opportunity to expand the economy beyond tourism. With Ask the stresses on the local economy, how do we find the balance between the visitor and the local experience?
Yeah, that's what we spoke about in one of the last slides of the presentation before presenting the project. That's vulnerability of the destination if you're very dependent on tourism. Nevertheless, people need to understand if you go into that mode, tourism at any cost, you might destroy the hand that feeds you. So it's not a reason to not touch into destination management. It's not a reason to tackle all these problems you have, visitor pressure, people behaving rudely, and so on. Because in the long term, it will push you back, your reputation in the eyes of good visitors, right? So it's looking for a balance for sure. And I think it's feasible. I could give you examples of other destinations, but that's maybe for the plan.
Thank you to Frank. I'll have my team pop in the chat those co-creation lab registrations. If you haven't registered today and you're interested, there's one session this afternoon and one again in the morning. And I'll bring it up again in my presentation.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Liza.
Good morning, and thank you all once again for being here today. I hope you found the Destination Think presentation informative. Without further ado, let's dive into what ACRA has been up to in 2021 and our outlook for 2022. Let's review some of our occupancy highlights. Aspen began the year in a place we aren't really used to being in our competitive set with Destimetrics. We posted the lowest occupancy in February and tied for 5th lowest in January. That's really a reflection of the effects of the traveler affidavit, our COVID rates, and red level restrictions. Year to date, occupancy is up 13% over 2020 and down 9% as compared to 2019. July and September posted the largest gains from a normal year, and conversely, January, February, and March, the largest losses. ADR plays a huge role in the summer season rebound, with May to October ADR seeing an increase of up 29% and RevPAR up 98%. Against our Destimetrics competitive set, Aspen had the highest ADR and second highest occupancy for July and August. Sales and lodging tax are additional indicators for tourism promotion. The biggest news for the destination marketing budget is that as of the most recent August consumption report released in October, we are officially up against budget projections. We spent the first 9 months of the year playing catch up from the hole of December, January, February created in our cash flow. As I mentioned, ADR is a strong driver of the lodging tax collection rebound, as occupancy alone could not account for it. Lodging tax collections are pacing 14% up over 2020 actuals, but remain 13% below 2019. Sales tax has seen strong increases, and along with tourism, indicates the strength that has come from additional year-round residents and second homeowners spending more time in their residences. One of the goals we've discussed for 2022 is really incorporating these new residents as well as the visitors into the community fold. Sales tax year to date is up 32% year over year and up 15% year over year against 2019. One note I'd like to make is accommodations is one of two industries that still lags behind 2019 collection rates and is currently down 9.6%. Also of note is that the city of Aspen continues to make headway in measuring STR, short-term rentals, and we know that 1/4 of accommodations in August were made up of the STR market. This is something we're monitoring closely and would love to find an accurate, reliable data partner, really measure those impacts into our community. In addition to measuring local occupancy and sales tax, we also look at a couple of other indicators. Arrivalist, one of our geolocation data partners, measures visitor movement within a destination. We've been with this company for over 4 years. Right now, we're looking at a screen comparing our 2019 to 2021 top feeder markets into the destination. One thing I'd like to call out is that our arrival of Miami, Fort Lauderdale arrivals into our destination really jumped between 2019 and 2021, indicating a strong rebound market and COVID resilient traveler. We also note that the LA markets dropped a little bit down on the list in 2021, and that's reflective of some of the California airports having the largest flight loss access during the pandemic. With the rollout of additional security measures and the iOS 14 platform, we have seen some data inconsistencies on the platform in regards to privacy. So this is one of our data partners that we will be evaluating in 2022 as their capabilities have shifted and more partners are able to come online and provide us with similar data. Also of Arrivalist data, we look at the value of the traveler coming into the Pitkin County Airport, as well as the value of the airport to the community. Based on the Arrivalist data, this visitor stays longer than the average Pitkin County length of stay. They are also more likely to have Aspen as their primary destination versus being part of a multi-destination trip. Of course, the airport visitor is less likely to be a repeat visitor within the same calendar year. So we really find the value of the Pitkin County Airport giving us an opportunity to communicate with the guest who's staying longer and have a chance to be more integrated into the community and understand the values and how to enjoy Aspen in a sustainable way. One thing that came up at our marketing advisory committee is that this airport data is largely reflective of a hotel guest. Some of our marketing advisory committee members who are very familiar with the short-term rental indicate that a short-term renter staying for a month or more is more likely to drive into market than fly in, so they have a different stay pattern. That's just something and another reason why we're really interested in finding a reliable data partner to measure that STR market. Wastewater is just one more data point to take into consideration when we look at the totality of impacts into the destination. Many things can impact these numbers, such as construction, properties being closed like the Limelight, low flow fixtures. But I think it is important to note that in the peak summer months, we were not exceeding 2019 flow data. Conversely, we do see that we are on par or exceeding 2019 levels for September-October timeframe. Again, speaking to the extension of the season and more year-round residents. This data is always open to interpretation, but I think good to look at as an indicator into our industry. Now let's take a look at what might lay ahead. Winter occupancy is pacing ahead of last winter. No surprise, given that at this time last year, vaccines were not yet available. We're just slightly up over the 2019-2020 pace season. Our borders are opening to international travel as of November 8th. We see an opportunity for this market to resume. However, we're not sure yet about the pace of that happening. We know Sydney and New South Wales have lifted their 2-week quarantine for vaccinated citizens returning. But anecdotally, we're hearing about Australians inquiring for the February-March time period versus the traditional January time. So we're not sure if they're going to be game to travel that early in January and fill that January kind of need period that we are all seeing in the occupancy reports. We also know that some of the lodging partners who have additional locations in Hawaii are forecasting a loss for 2022 as the rest of the world opens up and people become more comfortable with traveling internationally. That's something we're certainly taking a look at. From ACRA's perspective, we will remain cautiously optimistic for winter. December looks to be strong. January still lags. From President's Weekend through early March, we do see some strong gains. These trends are happening across Destimetrics reporting properties, so that is kind of a trend that's happening industry-wide. A few data points from destination analysts indicating that 44.9% of American travelers have tentative plans to take a holiday-related trip this season. That's compared to 52.8% in 2019. This same data partner, Destination Analysts, is indicating that the travel mindset is in line with spring of 2021 versus early summer 2021, based on the Delta variant setback. We look forward to joining the Aspen Skiing Company and the entire community for celebrating 75 years of skiing in Aspen this season. Now let's take a look at some of ACRA's programming and initiatives. Destination management, big buzzword, but I will note that we have began this shift long ago. In 2015, we began promotion of secret season to fill need periods. A couple years later, we began weighting the advertising campaign to be very light during the summer months. And then, of course, in 2018, we introduced visitor education efforts and took a mindful approach to destination management techniques with dispersion and sustainability efforts. With the engagement of Destination Think to lead the destination management plan process, we are now incorporating the community and our residents and bringing them to the forefront of our work. We really aim to protect the quality of life for our residents while preserving the experience of visiting Aspen. We are doing this through the lens of collaboration, communication, and evolution. Our inter-community and inter-industry partners are a key element to the success of ACRA's destination management initiatives. We continue to partner with public health on the Healthy Seasons task forces. And really more than the work we are doing just in light of COVID, we have forged meaningful working relationships across these different organizations, which is leading to increased collaboration valley-wide. This will really strengthen the efforts of the destination management plan recommendations, as we know that ACRA cannot indicate these recommendations that will be delivered to us in the plan in a silo. So we look forward to continued collaboration valley-wide, and thanks to public health for keeping all of us safe through the pandemic. In addition, Aspen Chamber Resort Association is part of the Maroon Bells Working Group. This has been a really big effort in terms of destination management, and we also look to work with the U.S. Forest Service on their overall management plan for the recreation area. I think it's important to highlight some improvements made with the work of the collaboration of this working group. You'll note on this slide that 11% of riders are standby. That means if you arrive into Aspen and didn't know you were supposed to have a reservation to ride the bus up to the Maroon Bells, H2O Ventures, which is the third-party system managing the reservations, is still able to accommodate you so long as you can wait 1 or 2 bus rides. They also made a great improvement in the parking reservation system this summer. Last summer, you may have noted that parking lot was underutilized based on no-show reservations. Similar to the airlines, they began overselling the parking lot by 20%, which now has the parking lot operating at its most useful capacity and accommodating as many guests as able. The Rafta shuttle season was extended through Saturday, October 23rd, and that was a really wonderful way that we could pivot on a dime to accommodate guests in this extended season. The reservations went on sale on aspenchamber.org on April 12th. It was our largest website traffic day, seeing over 11,000 users, 9,000 of which were new users. That was a wonderful opportunity for us to educate these new visitors to the website on how we expect sustainable and responsible travel when enjoying our natural assets. Shout out to Skico for being able to produce X Games in extraordinary circumstances. We continue to be proud to partner with them on this long-standing community event. One of ACRA's strategic plan goals is to partner with organizations to enhance existing events versus bringing in new events. That, along with our diversity initiative, led us to sponsor Gay Ski Week in its new iteration for 2021, and hopefully look to continue that relationship for 2022 as the event returns to normal. We also sponsored content with the Insights Collective and Aspen Times in regards to pandemic economics and tourism in mountain towns. Not only did we provide this as a service to our tourism-based businesses, but it was also a key method for setting the groundwork and educating you, our community, on the work we are already doing and planning for in the destination management space. E-bikes and increased use of trails we knew was going to be a hot topic this year, so we partnered with 2 cycling-minded organizations to try and elevate our messaging on responsible cycling. Roaring Fork Mountain Bike Association was a partner in the gold level designation for International Mountain Bike Association, so we continue to elevate and promote the destination-worthy and locally serving trail system with them. We were also able to cross-promote etiquette tips from Aspen Cycling Club on our blog, as well as reach their audience on the work ACRA was doing. A really nice way to hit a new audience that is already in market. Our sponsorship budget is flexible in order to allocate dollars towards different organizations, so long as they align with our strategic plan. It is also a great budget off-ramp in the event that the fund is coming in under projections. This summer, ACRA applied for and was awarded a Colorado Tourism Restart Destinations grant, which is funded with CARES Act money. The purpose of this program is to provide direct support to ACRA as it emerges from the COVID-19 pandemic. The recovery assessment is catered to our town, and the focus of our full-day workshop at the beginning of December will be building awareness of the findings from the Destination Think strategy and develop stakeholder consensus on immediate actions to implement that will support the realization of the plan. Additionally, Carbondale Tourism submitted for this same grant in order to forge collaboration with the entire valley. So you may have seen the article by Scott Condon in last week's Aspen Times, and the purpose of that program is to bring together the 5 communities within the Roaring Fork Valley to brainstorm collaborative opportunities. Aspen's proud to be partnering with Snowmass, Basalt, Carbondale, and Glenwood Springs on this project. The best destination managers are the best communicators. ACRA has long strived to be the best first point of contact for all visitors into the destination during all phases of the trip planning cycle. Education, sustainability initiatives, public relations, and group sales are all examples of the way ACRA communicates with our visitors and our community. We are here to support you, our community. So many of our destination marketing assets are tools for your own toolbox. We know you may not have your own content creator or photographer on staff, so we are here for you. We also continue to push out this content in a variety of different ways. We distribute a monthly newsletter to our own database. And of course, we continue to produce our seasonal rack brochures. The QR code continues to be our best asset for promoting events in Aspen, given the ever-changing landscape. We use that on both the rack brochure as well as the We Cycle Arts and Culture calendar panels we ran this year. We also still have the Aspen Field Guide, an evergreen editorial style piece. We continue to update the visitor resource guide on aspenchamber.org with the most current COVID protocols so visitors know what to expect when they arrive. I think we'll all be happy when we can put that little webpage to sleep forever. Also in 2020, we began purchasing community marketing images for your use, and we will continue to do so. Please let us know if you're looking for a particular type of image. AspenChamber.org continues to be the place where we are housing all of the useful and relevant educational content we are producing. And we are seeing great gains here. Increased engagement on the Aspen Chamber site means we are getting that educational, relevant, useful content out there to the right people at the right time. I'd like to give a shout out to Jessica Height on my team, who is constantly tweaking and improving the website. And you can see that hard work has been fruitful with these increases in website sessions. The engagement is also a huge piece of the website success. And you can see we are well above industry benchmarks. So kudos to Jessica and the workhorse that is aspenchamber.org. Do you guys remember when social media was just a cute little side project? Now it's a full-fledged communication tool, search engine, and a beast complete with its snarky trolls, always harassing Bridget. So let's take a look at some of our success metrics on those channels. You can see our number of followers, average monthly reach in the slide. We continue to maintain strong engagement levels, incorporating video into blogs, increasing the engagement with that tool. Our brand ambassadors help us to educate responsibly. Currently, we use Tess Weaver, Sam Axness as our brand ambassadors, and we look forward to bringing on Byron Gomez this winter. Those locally based ambassadors have been a great asset for promoting our how-to and enjoy Aspen responsibly, even going above and beyond posting it in their sponsored posts, but also including it in their link in bio. Our social strategy is constantly linking back to the website for more in-depth engagement. The video is the future of social. We can't emphasize that enough. People really want to feel immersed in the destination. So we will be looking at bringing on more video as part of our 2022 strategy. Much has been discussed about marketing as of late, and it's almost become a dirty word in this post-vaccination world for destinations that experience high use time periods. A neighboring mountain town got a lot of airtime when they announced they were no longer marketing. I think it would behoove us all to dig a bit deeper into this very buzzy announcement and realize that their communication strategy has just shifted from promotion to education. They are still, in fact, marketing. In our role as destination managers, we believe marketing is a tool that we can use to provide education, dispersion techniques, etc. Plus, there are many businesses outside of ACRA promoting the place. ACRA is the community asset, providing a unifying thread and consistent messaging that all of our stakeholders can use in their own efforts, teaching our visitors to be better stewards of the place that we call home. We will look towards the recommendations from the Destination Management Plan in regards to promotions in the coming years, making that decision not as a reaction, but off of resident sentiment and meaningful community engagement sessions. As a reminder, ACRA believes that 2021 has been as much of an outlier as 2020 in terms of reaction to travel. It really is too soon to tell how this will play out, particularly as we look at the rest of the world opening up as a destination option for 2022 and beyond. With that little disclaimer, I will now turn to the promotions we ran this year with two different agencies. BVK came on board during 2020 and was able to use existing assets to evolve the Defy Ordinary campaign. Releasing this journalistic, reflective style creative was a nice way to stand out in a crowded travel industry thirsty for rebound, as well as really aligning with the cultural shift that occurred as a result of COVID. I'll now play a video for you of one of our new creative.
You don't have to be from here. To feel like you were made here.
In addition to evolving the creative, BVK also ran our display campaigns. They inherited a couple of them that were postponed in 2020 as a result of COVID. They were good sports to take on commitments prior to their engagement. Our overall click-through rate for the display campaign exceeded benchmark at 0.15%. Industry benchmark is about 0.08 to 0.12. TripAdvisor continues to perform the best, providing a click-through rate at 3 times higher than benchmark. We were thrilled to work with BVK to optimize based on creative as well as device performance to conclude this successful campaign for 2021. BVK also took over the search engine marketing campaign, and we made a big strategic change in regards to our efforts in this space. Firstly, we evaluated the intersection of paid and organic search to make sure we aren't bidding on terms that we own organically. For example, there's no need for us to pay for maroon bells as a search term. And then we began bidding on more non-branded keywords, so search terms that don't include Aspen, so that we aren't paying for those searchers who would already be finding us. And as a result of these shifts, we are really setting a new baseline for 2021. Our key DMAs was the best performer with a conversion rate at 43 cents per conversion. So that's reaching people in our key feeder markets. And of course, responsive search ads were 2 of the top 3 converting ads. We are also in our second year with 26 Digital, a tourism-based purely digital agency. They ran digital seasonal campaigns for us on social channels. They have an annual lead generation campaign, an annual blog activation program, and provide us with search engine optimization consulting and coaching. They also ran a special project for the meetings and sales department. All of the seasonal campaigns drove traffic back to the website where users were served up relevant seasonal content and educated about when and where the best time to visit and what activities were available. Here are the results from that campaign. Our content manager is creating and updating original content all the time. Here's a scrolling look at the blogs for just 2021 so far. This content marketing is a huge management tool because we can guide people when and where to visit, and we are hitting the engaged audience at the appropriate time in their trip planning cycle. As you can see, she just kept creating content. It's amazing the breadth of content we have on aspenchamber.org. Native content is a standout performer, diverting people throughout the destination and providing helpful educational content. You can see the traffic generated by pushing out these blog articles is a big contributor to those increased website engagement stats we saw earlier in the presentation. We have an overall click-through rate of an unheard of 3.38% with a global average of 0.9%. Also, the cost per click of this distribution is just 21 cents compared to a global average of 63 cents. So again, huge thanks to all of that content creation coming out of our department. If we take out the emotional side of the future of digital marketing, let's look at the practicality of it. With Google phasing out third-party cookies, and for all the marketers in the room, this is really something you should have your eyes on for the future. Google is phasing out those third-party cookies in 2 years. So we are focusing on creating our own audiences to target custom and lookalike audiences off of. We can retarget users to engage with ads, organic posts, website visits, Instagram account, and video views. Much of our campaign is focused on lead generation and building our own database so we can reach out to people who have expressed interest or intent to visit Aspen when some of those digital marketing tools we've relied on disappear. And the bottom line, the old adage, content is king, has shifted to video content is king. So when we think about 2022, we will certainly look to increase our video content. And now over to Sarah Reynolds-Laster, who will speak to group sales initiatives.
Thank you, Eliza. In line with ACRA's destination management plan, the group sales team focuses on education and dispersion of group business. We provide referrals to businesses and vendors, introduce lodging and venue options that may not have been considered, and educate on times of year in winter, spring, and fall when there are the best opportunities for groups to host their program in Aspen. The team has maintained board positions in the meetings and events industry this year through Weddings Industry Professionals Association and Destination Colorado. ACRA's CVent campaign has performed well year over year with an increase in lead generation. Corporate, social, and incentive planners are all sourcing through CVent. This is a key platform to stay front of mind in the industry, share content about the destination, and educate on the need periods when new programs can be hosted in Aspen. ACRA's digital meetings and weddings campaign launched in March of this year with a focus on LinkedIn. Working with our agency of record, 26 Digital, we created a content marketing plan to assist in building awareness for Aspen's meetings, weddings, and event assets. We use online storytelling techniques, rich content, amplified voices, and distribution strategies to position Aspen as a world-class destination for a range of events. The goals of the campaign are brand awareness to expand the reach Aspen has within the meetings and events industry, lead generation by building followers and connections. This content strategy builds networks for both the organization and individual team members. Thought leadership, so ACRA is a resource and an expert in the industry, and creating event awareness with client testimonials and coverage of successful events hosted in Aspen. ACRA has stayed front of mind through both virtual and in-person trade shows this year, partnering with top industry event producers. The return to in-person trade shows was welcomed by meeting and event planners and gave ACRA the opportunity to reconnect and build our sales pipeline. ACRA's wedding Instagram account has seen steady growth and engagement. Everyone loves a beautiful wedding post. It is impressive to see how active wedding planners are on Instagram. This is an important channel for ACRA to educate planners on ways to enjoy Aspen responsibly when hosting weddings and events. We are inching closer to 2019 lead generation numbers with the return of group interest in Aspen. Corporate leads have ebbed and flowed throughout the year, but social has come back strong. We're starting to see corporate, conference, and incentive leads more consistently, especially for longer lead times in late 2022 and beyond. Thank you, and I'll send it back to Eliza.
Thank you, Sarah. Public relations is another one of our communications tools and a great way to amplify our sustainability initiatives or highlight arts and culture programming. Promo Communications holds the contract with ACRA to provide PR services. Promo focuses their work on strategy and creative ideas for pitching and hosting media relations. This year has centered on individual visits versus group hosting as a result of COVID. Targeted topics include destination management, sustainability efforts, arts and culture, skiing, and dining. This winter, they will look to partner with SkiCo and lodges on media visits and the intersection of arts and culture and skiing. Pre-COVID, we did focus on some key international markets. However, at this time, we are just focused on supporting the Colorado Tourism Office initiatives. Now let's take a look at some of our coverage highlights. All media clips live on our website, but I just wanted to call out a few. One from the Washington Post about mountain biking, a hit on arts and culture and their comeback, an Architectural Digest, as well as a piece on our generic geotag sustainability efforts in 5280. Evolution. We adapt to dynamic changes in our ecosystem and believe that constantly evolving is the key to relevance and success. We just want to highlight a few initiatives that we are doing in the DEI space. We've made a conscious effort to diversify our influencers and hosted Olivia Christine, a Black wellness influencer who created excellent, useful content during her stay with us in Secret Season. We are also exploring influencers to partner with for Gay Ski Week 2022. On that line, we have evolved the LGBTQ content on the website to include a plus at the end, and we encourage all of you to make that update as well. We work with a website monitoring company called Site Improve to optimize our website for accessibility needs, and have recently created a press release for visitors looking for accessibility offerings in the Roaring Fork Valley. Once revolutionary in the destination marketing world, sustainability and responsible tourism are basically expectations for your marketing plan at this point. We continue to build upon the work of our How to Aspen content. This year, we added the How to e-bike video, which was developed really in reaction to some poor interactions between e-bikers and buses on Maroon Creek Road. But we do know there is, of course, spillover on all area trails and roads. The video was distributed to all bike shops in the membership database to show clients prior to renting bikes. We look forward to wider distribution of this video in 2022. In addition to the new video, we are also partnering with the City of Aspen on expanding the how-to content, including relevant information for new citizens as well as our visitors. Partnering with a like-minded brand to elevate Aspen's exposure was a goal for 2021. So we partnered with Field Notes brand, a pocket notebook brand, and licensed works of art from different local artists. It is available for purchase at a selection of local retailers, and a portion of the proceeds benefits Pledge for the Wild. The 2021 recipient of the Pledge for the Wild funds is the Independence Pass Foundation. ACRA also makes a donation for each book that we donate when we give them out to media or host them for groups. Also, on a recommendation from our agency BBK, we created a sustainability landing page on aspenchamber.org. This is now the umbrella landing page for all of the initiatives we have taken on over the years. Tag Responsibly, How To, Aspen Pledge. We envision this as an evolving home for additional programming that may come out of the Destination Management Plan. At long last, the Destination Management Plan process. Once again, we thank Destination Think for their presentation this morning. To recap, we are about 50% of the way through the process, and to date, here are some of the things that we have engaged with. Destination Think has reviewed much desk-side background research, everything from the Northwest COG Mountain Migration Report to the City of Aspen Sustainability Report. We have conducted 2 tourism town halls, as well as collected 1,300 resident sentiment surveys. We have had 10 one-on-one interviews with key ACRA board members, and they also conducted a staff workshop for us. We have the 2 co-creation labs upcoming this afternoon and tomorrow morning. If you have not registered for them, we encourage you to do so, and we will put that in the chat for registration. The plan will be delivered in January of 2022. And once the plan is delivered, ACRA will act as a catalyst and facilitator for bringing the appropriate partners together for action. As we know, many of the findings won't be things ACRA can initiate change on in a silo. This is a crucial step in our evolution, so we remain nimble as we look at programming and budgeting for 2022 so that we can adjust accordingly based off of the plan recommendations. Finally, to the good stuff, guys. Isn't any amount of news these days so good? Let's pop the bubbly for a couple of awards we received recently. Aspen was named #1 small city in the US by Condé Nast Reader's Choice Awards. We have finally taken the #1 spot from Charleston, South Carolina. These prestigious awards are based on the votes of over 300,000 of their readers. So we don't really have any influence on this. It's just a result of readers' choice. Secondly, we won not 1, but 2 awards from the US Travel Association. We won the award for Destination Website, as well as the Road Less Traveled, the category winner for Tag Responsibly, Take the Aspen Pledge. The judge's comment on this award was the Tag Responsibly campaign was clearly outlined and had a clear link to the objectives of avoiding over-tourism, dispersing visitors, and encouraging responsible behavior. Shout out to the team for winning these 2 prestigious awards. And finally, let's look ahead to next year. As we have mentioned, much of the programming for 2022 will be informed by the Destination Management Plan recommendations, as well as the work coming out of the CTO Restart Destinations workshop at the beginning of December. So while we know we will have a lot of work to do in 2022, we don't exactly have that detailed out yet. We look forward to coming back together with our Marketing Advisory Committee in early Q1 with a detailed outline of those initiatives and how they align with the budget. We remain open to all recommendations and are willing and able to pivot our role as needed to align with the findings from the Destination Think outreach, which was mindful and methodical versus being reactionary, and really with the idea of protecting the quality of life in Aspen. There are also a couple of additional collaborative projects that are in the tentative space. The Colorado Tourism Office offered marketing matching grants this year. They will be announced in November, which is why they're still tentative for us. One is a historic opera houses loop led by Lake County Tourism Office, and we will partner with the Wheeler Opera House if awarded on that, and looking at cross promotion of other historic opera houses throughout the state, a nice niche market traveler. Additionally, Carbondale Tourism submitted an application for the Roaring Fork and Farm Map, a foodie-centric marketing initiative, which would be a wonderful way to highlight our local agriculture as well as the restaurant culture. Again, these grants will be awarded in mid-November, so we'll report back in if we were awarded them and budget accordingly. Finally, based on community sentiment and the ever-shifting landscape, we will be evaluating programming traditionally offered and look at scaling back events that might not align with community values or sustainable tourism efforts. We also hope to reinvigorate our guest service program to ensure we are offering the very best visitor experience to those people who are already in market, as well as providing a value to the community by providing useful recommendations. We want to invite our guests into the fold, which in turn makes them more accountable to the places they visit. Without further ado, we are looking for the ALA's approval of the 2022 budget draft. Once the ALA approves this, and you can do so in the chat, we will then bring it to the ACRA Board of Directors. The City of Aspen is projecting tax income to be just over $3 million. Our group participation income line item is just down slightly based on change in ownership and some closures. Again, reflective of us really reevaluating what events we should be producing. Our event management fee is down slightly, and our co-op fund line item remains the same, bringing us for a total draft budget for 2022 just over $3.1 million. You will see payroll and operating expenses has increased slightly to accommodate for bringing on additional staff members. During COVID, we lost some people in the events department, and we would love to build up Jennifer's team so that she is no longer operating as a one-man show. Marketing and event services has also increased, reflective of the budget increase, and much of the programming coming out of that line item will be informed by the destination management plan. The partnerships line item has also increased, reflective of those collaborative opportunities, which would be the Historic Opera House's Loop and the Roaring Fork and Farm Map. We have also increased the research line item because we feel we are always playing catch up in research. We would look forward to bringing on a short-term rental data platform as part of that research, and potentially another geolocation like Arrivalist to measure visitor movement throughout the destination. 2022 is the final year of City of Aspen loan repayment. A reminder that that was a loan received as part of the COVID recovery plan. So we will complete our repayment to the general fund in 2022, which brings our total expenditures to $3.1 million. I also want to note, while we have always incorporated budget off-ramps into our budgeting process, ever since COVID, we are like the I-70 coming out of Eisenhower Tunnel. We've got off-ramps all over the place in the event that the fund does not bring in dollars as projected. We are led by a finance committee who has always had the best interests of the financial health of the organization to guide us to conserve dollars for future economic need periods. The ACRA Marketing Advisory Committee did approve this budget last week, and we are looking for ALA approval in the chat. And I'm also happy to take any questions in the chat. So if you want to go ahead and put questions for the budget or the entire presentation in the chat, Jessica on my team will facilitate questions to both Sarah and myself. And if you have any questions for Debbie, you can ask those as well.
We have a question from Trisha McIntyre. Can you elaborate on the staffing for events and marketing?
Sure. So Jennifer Albright-Carney has had part-time events support this year for producing the 4 events for ACRA, but we really need to bring that back up to a full-time position. And we're really looking at how to structure the department for the health of the organization.
Also, from Trisha, also what data platform are you considering for STR research?
We have worked in the past with AirDNA and didn't find that their research was reliable. So we've looked at Key Data, which seems to have a proprietary method for measuring versus just algorithm. So that is one that we are looking into.
A question from John Corcoran. You indicated you see 2021 as an outlier. Do you include summer in that assessment? And if so, how do you see it as an outlier?
We do include that in that assessment because we believe that with the international, global destinations kind of not available to the domestic traveler, we saw increased demand on those places that they were able to visit. And certainly, there is a study as well on this kind of revenge travel and how the expectations are a little bit higher coming out of this, anxiety-inducing event. Trisha, as head of the ALA, we do want an ALA vote, but I recognize that technology is our friend and foe. And that was maybe a little unclear to read this, at least it was for me. So maybe I will email you those budget slides and you can send them out to the ALA and we'll get an electronic vote that way.
We have a question from Rachel Richards. Aspen is at 8.8 positivity rate today with an over 180 per 100,000 metric. Will ACRA start asking their guests to get vaccinated before they come?
ACRA's position has always been to support public health, be working with them and pushing out the messages that they're requesting of the community. We know that any international travelers, based on the national requirement, will be vaccinated upon entry. But we don't have an official position. We will be supporting public health with educational efforts. If there aren't any additional questions, we'll let you get on your way with your day. We will be posting this presentation on the website, complete with all of the decks. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And again, Please register if you're interested for the co-creation labs this afternoon or tomorrow morning. And we look forward to working together with you, our community, as we look at destination management in the years to come. Well, that concludes our programming for today. So thank you so very much for your time and attention this morning. And we look forward to many more good things in 2022. As always, if you have questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out. We will be posting the recordings from this morning's sessions on our website so you can view them at your convenience. And for now, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to working together with you as our community.